Hi and welcome back to another video from Effective Dashboards. In this video I'm going to solve a business problem that's related to displaying KPIs in a matrix. So let's go and just quickly discuss the business problem that we've got, and then I'll talk you through the solution. So we've got this matrix here, this dashboard, and the dashboard is being created in Excel. And it is a dashboard that pulls data from an underlying data sheet, also in Excel. So we can see here we've got a list of KPIs, we've got the actual headers, we've got the KPI titles or names, we've got some targets, we've got the date, we've got a value. So we don't actually have access to the underlying data that was used to calculate these values. And this might often be a case where we don't have a data warehouse and we've got an analyst that runs reports every week and updates this spreadsheet, and then the dashboard here uses VLOOKUPs and other formulas there to go and actually pull the information from this underlying sheet. And it can have quite a lot of history. Each one of these columns is a week. And I've got a previous video which I'll link above that explains how to pull this information into Power BI and use Power Query to actually get it shaped up to look and to be usable in Power BI. So that's in the previous video, so we're going to assume that's already been done. We've got the information in Power BI, but now the problem is the managers want to see the information in this sort of format. So they're coming on board with Power BI and we need to bring them along on a journey. They want to be able to see the information in something like this. Now, it's going to be very difficult to emulate this because there's just so much more control on Excel. You can add virtually anything you want into each of these different cells. But I'm going to show you how you can create a matrix that's going to have the KPIs and the values and the date. And then we'll add in maybe some targets later on in a different video. Okay, so we're going to construct this KPI matrix in Power BI. So we're in Power BI and we have imported the data, and we've got the data in the format we need. So we've done the transformation steps to go and get this data into a row-based KPI format. I'll just quickly show you that. So we've got a date, and for each date we've got the KPI and we've got the value, and that's exactly what we need to be able to create and to work with this data in Power BI. And we've now got a requirement to add a matrix. So we've got the matrix in Power BI. Let's make a bit of space here, and we're going to add in the first thing is the row, which is a KPI name. Then we're going to add the value. You can see we've got the value in here, and that value at the moment is summed. Okay, so that's going to give us a sum for all the values across all the dates. So we need a date, and at the moment that is going to give us the values we need. It's going to sum each of the values for each of the dates for each of the KPIs, and because we've got only one value for each date for each KPI, it's going to give us the correct values. Now there's a couple of issues here that you're going to see straight away. The first one is that it is sorted by the KPI name, and we can only sort that either by the KPI name or the value, and we can only sort that if we go to KPI name, we can sort that ascending or descending. So there's W at the top there, ascending, or we can have a percentage at the top here. So we've got no control really over how we want this information to be displayed. So the first problem we've got to solve is we want to be able to display these KPIs in a predefined sequence based on the same sequence we've got in our previous report, our Excel report. The second issue we've got is that we have got no headings. So we don't have any of the headings that we had in the other report. So let's just quickly flick back to that one. So we've got these headings here. And the next issue we've got is we don't have the ability to format each one of these individually. So we've pulled in the KPI value and each KPI has got, so these are percentages, schedule attainments are percentage, some of these are thousands, and it has actually put the comma in for the thousands. It's typically the percentages and the numbers, the decimal numbers or the whole numbers we want to be able to format differently. So we've got no control over that at the moment. So those are the couple of problems we need to solve. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we need to create a new table. And this table is going to define a sort order for the order we want to display our KPIs. It's going to have two columns. So we create the table first of all, we assign a number to each KPI, and that number will then correspond to the, if we go back to this dashboard, to the order we want to see these in here. So it doesn't need to be alphabetical, it can be any order we choose, and we're going to assign the order which is going to be the same or similar to this here. So then we are going to sort this KPI name by the sort order. So whenever you add this KPI name into a visualization and you look to sort it, either ascending or descending, it'll ignore the actual values in here. And it'll, so these O, S, A, these values here, and it will sort this display by this column here. And I'm going to show you how you can do that. It's really quite easy in Power BI to do that. And then once we've done that, we will go and add a matrix, and we will use a switch statement, and that's going to go and display the appropriate KPI depending on which sort order we have, or which sort number we've chosen in here, and I'll talk you through that as well. Okay, so first of all, I've created an Excel spreadsheet here, and I've just because it's a little bit easier to work in Excel than it is directly in Power BI when entering data directly into Power BI. Now we could actually have just defined it here and pulled it in as another table, another source, but rather than have another Excel spreadsheet with more information in it, we've got the ability to go and enter data directly into Power BI. So if we click on here and we copy that, and then we go back to our Power BI file, and we can go, and there's a button here called Enter Data. And we just need to add a new column, and we've got this in our clipboard, so if we paste it in, it's going to paste in those values there. And we'll just rename the columns, we'll call that sort. And we'll call this column here KPI display name. And each one of these display names will marry up with the KPIs that are in the KPI input sheet table. And we're going to call this one here KPI sort. We will edit that data because I just want to be sure that we've got the right data types. Yep, sort's a number, and the display name is text. That's fine, so we'll close and apply that. And the next thing we do is we just create a relationship between them here. So I'll come to that measure table in a second. And we want to be able to create a relationship between this here display name and the actual KPI name. And that should be a one-to-many relationship. Yep, we've got one entry in that table to many entries in this table here. And then we are going to go in and start editing this matrix. So we're going to go and replace this row name with the display name. And then we are going to sort, so it's still not sorted correctly. But what we can do is we go into that display name and we go up to sort by, and we want it to sort it by the sort column. And as if by magic, we've now got we've got an issue there, so I'll need to go and figure out what that issue is. But we can see here we've got the heading with no value in it. Then we've got the overall schedule attainment. We've got the other heading. So it's starting to take shape now. We've got the actual groupings. There's a few of these are not working, so I'm going to go and look and see. It's just going to be a mismatch between the actual names. But in general terms, you can see that this now is sorted by the sort order that we've defined in this new table that we've added. Okay, so now I have sorted out this matrix here. There was just a difference between the names I'd used here and the names that were in the mapping between the name here and the name here. So when the relationship was created, I couldn't find an appropriate name in the data sheet, and that's why with that empty cell at the top, the empty row at the top, which just grouped everything together, that it didn't find a name for. Okay, so now we've got this sorted. It's starting to take a little bit of shape here. We've got the KPI headings here, KPI2, KPI3, etc, etc. We've got totals, so we don't need the totals. So let's go, and in fact, actually, let's leave that for just now. So we'll come back and do a little bit of formatting later on. So the next issue we've got is that these values are all slightly different. So what we need to do is we need to be able to format each one of these values to be a different number, or a percentage. In this example here, we need the percentages and we need the numbers. So to do that, we're going to use a switch statement. So let's go and start creating a switch statement. So I'm going to go for a new measure. And the measure is going to be called, let's call it, I've got some notes here, just so everything's looking okay. I'm going to call this So we're going to enter this new measure, and we're going to enter it in this data input sheet table here. And the new measure is going to be called KPI display value, and it's going to be equal. And we're going to use this switch statement. Now, I've got some videos on how to use the switch statement, so I'll leave a link to those in the text below or on the screen here. So the first thing we're going to do, the expression we're going to use, is we're going to go and we're going to use the max of this KPI sort value. It's going to be KPI. There we go. KPI sort. That's going to be the expression we're going to add into here. And then if the KPI sort value is linked to each one of these values behind here, because we've got a relationship, remember, between this sort value through into this table here. So for every value here, there's a name, and that name has got a corresponding sort value. So each one of these will have a sort value. And the max of the sort value for this row is going to be corresponding to this this KPI name here, which would be 1, this one will be 2, this one will be 3, this one will be 4, etc. Let me just show you actually that working. It did take a little second for a little while for me to get my head around this, how to do this, but here's how it works. So you go in here, and rather than display the value, if I just display the sort, and we just choose the max, we can see that this is all the different sort values here. Now this one will be 1, but there's just no value being displayed at the moment. But here's the max of these values. So we're going to replace those values there with, in fact it might even work just leaving those in, with a switch statement. So the switch statement says if it's 1, then we are going to replace it with the corresponding measure that we've created. So we've got a measure that I've gone and created for each one of these. And I'll just show you that in a second. I just want to get a few of these on so we can see it starting to work. 2 will be overall schedule attainment, and we'll just leave everything else for the time being. So let's just see that come through. Okay, so it does seem to be, so I just need to replace this max sort value with the KPI display measure that I've just created. So let's pull it into here, get rid of this, and we can see that we're now starting to kind of get somewhere. So this schedule attainment is being set up as let's just look and see. Yep, here we've just set this up purely as a blank value, an underscore value, and then we've got the overall schedule attainment, which is set up as the sum of the schedule attainment value, which has been filtered for the KPI name, which is overall schedule attainment. So we're almost there. Now the issue we've got now is that that still is not formatted as a percentage, and that's what we're going to go and sort now. Okay, so we're going to go and highlight the schedule attainment, and we're going to use that as an example, and we're going to wrap this in a format function. So what a format function does is it actually converts this into text. So, and then that means we can format that text in any way we see fit. So it converts the number into a text value. So if we go to value, so format, and the value is going to be this value that's calculated using this calculate statement. And then the format we're going to use is going to be quite straightforward. It's just going to be a hashtag, which is a placeholder for the actual number. And then we're going to use percentage. And we will put a comma after that. And just a little bit of configuration there. And then we go in here. And we can see that's been formatted as a percentage. So let's do the next one. Now let's find schedule work orders. Right, okay, so we find schedule work orders. So we go back to our measure. And we're going to add the next one in, which is number 3. And if the sort order is number 3, this is going to be scheduled work orders. Let's add that in for just now. And we can see it's got a couple of extra decimal places here that we don't need. So let's go and format that one as well. In fact, actually, I think we may actually be able to go and format the whole of this as having, oh, there's a few things that have got decimal places, so we do need to have some decimal places. Okay, so let's go back in here and we will find the schedule attainment, scheduled work orders. So we find it down here somewhere. Scheduled work orders. And we'll do the same again. We will type in format. You could do this using variables as well, but for just now we'll just do it like this. And the format for this one here is going to be just a placeholder with no decimal places. I think that should work. There we go. and we've got this one here. So we'll just continue through using this. Let's find one that's got a decimal place so we can see the decimal places working. Okay, so it looks like none of them have got decimal places. Okay, so that's fine. But we do find that this routine work orders here has got some, we want that to have a comma when we see that. So routine work orders, so let's go and find that one. Routine work orders. And we can see it's added a comma in here. Okay, so we've got the ability using that format option to be able to format and shape the actual the look and feel of each of the numbers that are going to be displayed on this matrix. So I'll pause this, I'll go and format each one of the measures. It's going to take a little bit of time for this, so I'll go and do that, and then we will come back and finish off. Okay, so I've now added in all of the measures that we are going to use to calculate and format each one of these different KPIs in the matrix. So if we open up the measures folder here, and we can see for each one I've created a measure with the format and the relevant format options there. But what I've also done is I've also created an additional measure for just the value. I think that's important for this example here because there will be visualizations where we will need the value rather than the text output. So if you look at this one here, let's just take the overall schedule attainment. So overall schedule attainment has been formatted as a percentage, and that has been entered into our matrix. And so that overall schedule attainment measure, overall SA percentage, is the actual value we're using in this matrix here, and that value there is text. So we can see at the top here, it's grayed out a little bit, but you can see that says text. Now it will automatically set that to text, and you can't change it because we've used that format function, which always returns a text string. However, if we go back into the other tab here, now this is the tab that we created in the first video. We've got overall schedule attainment here, and this value, this here, if I go into this graph, if I just, it's got the overall schedule attainment percentage and then in brackets value. So if I was to only have one measure, and that measure was the text measure, so let's get rid of that, and it was just the one measure that I've got here, it just won't let me put it in. It's a text measure, it just does not even let me put it into that field. So we do need the two measures if we're going to go down this route and we want to get that that matrix. One for value-driven visualizations like tables and like bar charts and graphs, and another one for this outlook here. Okay, so just a quick recap. What we've done, we have got a matrix, and we have got the display KPI name along the left hand side. We've got the week ending as a column, and in the values we've got this measure here, which is KPI display value. That KPI display value displays a KPI based on a switch statement. Which is here. And that switch statement looks at the sort value, which we've defined in a table, and then displays the KPI in that sequence. So that allows us now to have a bit more, well, not a bit more, complete control over the order that we see these KPIs being displayed in this table. Okay, so that's the end of this video for actually importing the data and displaying it in a matrix format. The obvious thing that you'll see here, if we compare it to the Excel spreadsheet, is that obviously we don't have the headers that are a different color to highlight the sections. We don't have the different colors for the header row, target values, etc. So what we're going to do in the next video is we're going to start adding some conditional or some formatting into this table here to make it look a little bit more like the Excel matrix of KPIs that we're trying to emulate. Okay, thanks for listening. If you like this video, then please click the thumbs up. I'd much appreciate that. And also, if you want to subscribe and keep up to date with the next video in the series and any other videos I release videos once a week, then click the subscribe button and press the bell to keep updated. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you in the next video.